Hey there, Pacific Rim fans, this is Wesatron. Today we're going to be taking a look at NECA's redo of Knifehead from the Pacific Rim series of action figures. This is the Series 3 figure, so it is much larger in scale than the previous Knifehead figure. I am sorry that I do not have my figure unboxed yet. I am still living out of boxes at the house in terms of the toy room, so I won't be able to do a comparison, but I will be able to quickly show you guys how he looks next to Trespasser. Because essentially these are the same figure with a couple major differences, but most of them are the same. They have almost identical articulation. The biggest difference is that they have different torsos. I know they look very, very similar, but these are actually a little different because of the way that you can see his torso. Well, actually, they might even be the same torso with just an addition up here. That's hard to say. This may just be an extra piece added on now that I see how this is jointed here. But you can see his head goes much higher up into his skull. There's a lot more ridges and stuff back here. But the biggest thing is the shell on the back you can see is much larger, whereas his is very kind of closer to the body, a little more refined. But they even have like the same tail and everything. So almost identical in terms of sculpt, just a few things different, same hands, same feet, same everything else, but different chest area, and of course different heads. You can see his huge knife blade here, and then different backs. But very, very similar. I will still touch on articulation quickly because there are a couple changes. We still have the swivel hinge shoulders. They go all the way around and everything. Swivel hinge elbows. Get a pretty limited range of motion there. Ball joints in the wrists are still great. We've got the swivel hinge in the shoulders on the torso, which also rotate, of course. We've got ball joints in there. We've got a ball joint down here. This is one of the points that would be a little different because of the sculpt. Unless they are actually the same part, but they do look a little different, so I don't know yet. Ball joints in the hips get you a nice outward range. They can actually tuck in pretty close as well, and then move forward and back. Got swivel hinges in the knees, get about that much range, and then ball joints in the feet also have some pretty nice range for those wide stances, keeping them a little flat. And of course, bendy in the tail. There are holes, so you know that it's a bendy part of the body. So pretty identical to Axehead or Trespasser, whatever you want to call him. With the one big difference, which I wish was not so different, is that his head is very limited still. Even after this new figure, you get very, very slight down. You can see I'm actually kind of bending it when I do that. Very slight up, like almost nothing in terms of up and down. Left and right, you get almost nothing as well. It's mostly rotation that you're going to be looking at. And, you know, rotation is great. It's going to still be great for getting some of those poses. But I do kind of wish that they'd improve the ball joint there. I don't know if it's limited by the ball inside there or if it's just the sculpt of the back of the neck blocking it. I'm not sure, but I do wish that it was a little better. And, of course, he's got the giant hinge just like Trespasser does. So yeah, articulation is almost identical, so why don't we go ahead and move in on some of those details. So here's Knifehead close up, and he kind of looks a little goofy when you actually look at him straight on. More to the side is where he starts to really shine, has a lot of character. But you can see this is the quote-unquote battle damage version. I assume because none of this is actually sculpted in, that at some point they'll release like a 2-pack version or something that won't have all this paint on it, which will make a lot of collectors happy. I know a lot of people aren't happy about the battle damage paint job on here, but I think it looks pretty good. They did a nice job of capturing the glowy type of feel of their blood and everything, where it's darker on the outside and lighter in the middle. I think they did a nice job with it. It's just I think more people would just prefer the the classic look, but they did a great job with the tattoos. The paint, of course, is much different than we saw on Trespasser or Axehead. So very cool. I still love all the details in the sculpt, all the ridges and everything all look very, very nice. Crocodile legs still just looks really, really, really nice. He's still got the huge black talons, so they look great. Kind of more menacing, I think, with the gloss on them. As I said, big difference on the back. We don't have the huge, knife or like ridge, I guess, on the back that resembles an axe head. This plays much more close to the chest. We've got the nice big, again, glossy black talons kind of coming off the side. This has a real earthy type of feel to it. Black with brown kind of down in the crags. So very, very cool. And that only comes down to his waist. It doesn't continue onto the tail or anything. And of course the tail is bendy, but yeah, this guy in terms of paint and sculpt is still outstanding. I love that they painted the inside of his mouth and everything, and that dark blue tongue. He looks really, really nice. I still really like the look of Knifehead. Kind of a little better than Trespasser, but they are pretty close to being the same figure. Just the paint job does really help to make them kind of stand out from each other, which I will show again when we pan back out for value. Because you can see, even though these guys are the same body, they do still have quite a lot of personality to each figure. The heads do a lot for that. I mean, they look very, very different, which is very cool. But also, you know, different tattoos, different paint schemes. He's much earthier green. He's a more stone blue. So they still look very different. I don't think most people are just going to walk up and say, hey, is that the same figure? You know, it takes a good eye to pick out that these are actually the same sculpt. But in terms of value, you do not get any extra accessories or anything, but you do get a massive hunk of figure. And I'm really liking the companies that are putting out these types of big scale figures and still keeping the price relatively low. These are going to be about 25 bucks a piece. I did see them at FYE again this weekend for about 27 or 27.99, somewhere in there. I think 30 is still a really good price because these are, like I said, big, heavy, massive figures. When you compare them to things like $23 here, $23 here, you know, this guy is going to be the closest in terms of value cost. You know, 30 bucks for this, about 30 bucks for this. I mean, because they're more realistically about 25 and 23. They still feel like great deals to me. Really big, massive figures. They'll fit in with smaller scale stuff. If you just want giant monsters to terrorize, you know, G.I. Joe size figures or anything, you've definitely got that. Or if you want the large scale Pacific Rim stuff, it still fits in great with that. The new Gypsy Danger coming out will kind of scale up to him a little better, but right now it makes him kind of look like the underdog, which I think is really cool because he definitely got his butt handed to it by Knifehead. So pretty cool. 25 bucks I would say is a great price. If you can keep it under 30, you're still in a great kind of room there. 35 is getting a bit high. But honestly, it's still a really big figure with really nice articulation. The only thing I would say is holding it back from that is that the paint is not... the paint kind of does the job of a new sculpt without them having sculpted the damage, which everybody I think would have preferred. And the neck articulation I think could still be a lot stronger. Other than that, this is a great action figure and I do recommend it. If you have been picking up the Pacific Rim figures, you definitely want to get this guy to replace your old Knifehead because he did have a whole lot of limitations, let's be honest. Cool figure, but lots of limitations. This guy beats him in terms of articulation, in terms of paint, in terms of design. Everything is much better. I highly recommend it. So that's it for this review. If you have any questions or comments, throw them in the box below and I'll be glad to answer them for you. And thanks to all the subscribers and thanks for all the views, guys. I really appreciate it. I will talk to you later. Thanks.